Evan wrote that article that broke down what had been going on at AppHarvest. We feel we have a responsibility to talk about what's going on plainly without having much bias in it. Obviously, we want AppHarvest to succeed. We want to see them do well. But we do feel a responsibility to be real about what's going on there. So that being said, we wanted to continue just updating on what's going on there, the good and the bad.
Yeah, we've got some good news here.
And we've got some good news to talk about here, which we're excited about. So just wanted to preface it with that. Evan, I'll pass it off to you to give us an update on what's going on with AppHarvest.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that they released in part of their filings and 8Ks to the market. They're a public company, so all this is something that they have to report on and show investors. These are material events. So the first one is they're doing a sale-leaseback of the Berea property with Mastronardi. So it's a $127 million sale and leaseback to their partner Mastronardi, who is basically distributing their product. And so they grow the tomatoes, they grow all the produce, and then Mastronardi takes it to the grocers and sells it to the grocers for consumers to then buy. So this is a sale-leaseback. They're going to be paying about $9.5 million in rent over 10 years. There's 4-year renewal terms, and they're 5 years each. So basically what's going on here is they're selling their Berea farm to Mastronardi, and that gets them cash on their balance sheet that they can use for things like paying off debt, which they did. They took a loan from Mastronardi of about $30 million to complete that facility. And so now they can pay that completely off. They've got some other obligations they'll have to use that money for. But the important thing here, and this happens all the time in private equity, manufacturing, large capital-intensive projects that have some kind of real estate, you see leasebacks pretty frequently. This is a big part of what's going to make AppHarvest sustainable from a capital perspective, because the capital markets have now largely dried up for this kind of risky investment. So they're not going to be able to raise any more venture. They're not going to probably be able to go raise a whole lot from the public markets. They are likely going to be delisted soon. We'll see what that looks like. So these kind of leasebacks are a necessity. So this is a positive piece of information here on AppHarvest, and we'll see over time what the 4-farm network begins to net as far as revenue and profits to see how sustainable this is. But the big takeaway on this first bit of news is capital is hitting their balance sheet, which is oxygen for them at this point. They've got to figure out ways to get more capital or start to generate more revenue.
Yep, for sure. And you mentioned it there, but just to really call it out, they also announced that their Richmond, Kentucky farm is officially open and has begun growing Campari brand tomatoes. So they've got that 4-farm network fully up and running, which is an accomplishment in itself. Let's not look over that. The fact that they built all of these facilities in record time and got them up and producing tomatoes. So now from here, let's just cheer them on and hope they can produce the revenue that they need to continue business operations.
I've been seeing the term thrown around and the kind of the statement thrown around. This is the largest controlled agriculture project in U.S. history. As fast as they've built these farms, as many acreage as they've built now, this is the largest ramp up of anything like this on this scale. So that's a huge testament to their ability to execute on a construction and kind of development perspective this early on.
Yep. And let's move on to this last kind of update from AppHarvest that is part of the story as well. And that's that they hired a new COO. So Tony Martin, who is now the new Chief Operating Officer, is coming in to optimize production, revenue, and costs across AppHarvest's 4-farm network of 165 acres. So really the main point of this entire story is just we wanted to highlight his background. He's got a nearly 12-year career with Windset Farms, one of the largest controlled environment producers and marketers of indoor grown crops in North America, with more than 250 acres in the U.S. and Canada. So this is a good sign that somebody with that kind of experience is coming onto the AppHarvest team, dedicating their talents and their efforts to try and get this company to profitability and save them from running out of capital or worse. So Evan, do you have anything to add based off of that update?
No. I think it's important to see, again, this level of talent coming in, especially after David Lee's exit. This is important that they replace, that operating ability with somebody that I think has more expertise in this space. David Lee, I think, was more of an industry, more of that ESG kind of level of COO that comes in and knows how to operate, ESG focused companies, but they have to start to focus on operations related to farming, and that's what this man Anthony Martin has done his entire career is operate and run the financial parts of the largest indoor grow operation in the United States with Windset Farms.